Ahoy! Welcome back. Last sip of coffee. Lukewarm. Happy. Fabulous. I was about to say fantastic, but I said fabulous. And kind of messed it up. Well, here's some Snowth stuff. I did a few things without you because, and I'm sorry. Just because that's how I was feeling, and you know, how many videos can you watch of tedium? And I didn't feel like doing time lapses. I should probably do that, but not really going to do anything right now. But I did want to show what's happened and what's about to happen. So I think the last thing was the mouth, inside of the mouth was getting sewn in. So I did that. And I've been trying to figure out how in the hell to make a grip or a mouth plate. You know, most puppets, it's easy because their mouth just kind of hinges and opens and closes flat. And this mouth hinges on its sides. Right there, those corners. So it's a little different. And it seems like this should be real easy, but I've been really stumped as to how to do this properly. Been messing around with this gasket rubber. My thinking originally was something like this that's kind of attached to the black fabric, because I thought that, oh, maybe it's going to need help flattening out when you close the mouth. But actually, what I've come to think is it doesn't really need help as long as it's pulled together from, you know, the top and the bottom nice and evenly. It flattens out naturally, so it doesn't really need help doing that. Plus, as flexible as these are, they're still just a little too rigid, and I taped this down, you know, to the inside to see how it would feel. Put some loops on it for my fingers, and it just didn't feel right pulling it apart. It made the mouth rest flat, so you had to really pull it to open it, and I didn't want to open all the mess. I did try putting them long ways this way. I know I'm doing this upside down, but kind of like that, so it had a top and a bottom, and it sort of moved a little better because it was, again, pulling from the center of the top and bottom. But yeah, just not quite right. I also realized that relying on a mouth plate that's glued to this fabric to be pulling everything down is probably a bad idea, because this fabric is just sewn on to the edge of this fleece. So it's putting all the strain on the fabric to move the shape, and that doesn't seem right. Somehow I kind of thought that might work, and, like, have this all glued down to the foam behind it, and but now I don't think that's how it should be, or how it is. I spent yesterday trying all the ways I could think of to work that sort of thing out, where it's attached to the fabric. Just couldn't come up with anything. So what I think now it really is that there's a structure attached to the foam itself, and that's doing more of the like some foam loops or fabric loops that are actually attached to the inside of the foam skull, and that's what's actually being drawn together. So So rather than trying to attach something to this fabric, I need to just work with the foam and get something attached to that feels good. And then let the fabric just attach to that. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. Yeah, that's the thinking there. But my brain is still tired. I'm trying to figure that out. So I feel good that I at least have a new idea of what to do. And I feel like I know why what I was thinking won't work. So that's valuable info, even if it meant I didn't get anything actually done for a day. Whenever I'm doing this kind of thing, there's so many steps and it seems like it's going to take forever. I try to just make sure I do one thing a day, even if it's just as small as like making a decision, about how to do something or figuring one small thing out. As long as I've done one tiny thing, I feel good about it. You've made a little bit of progress that you can see the next day, and kind of keeps you going. Made some hands, arms and hands. Just stuck the fleece together to kind of fold it over like that. The outside, the correct side of the fabric together, trace the arm, and just sewed it through the sewing machine, flip it inside out, and there you go. Got a little bit of the seam. I haven't done any picking on the seams. I've stuffed the hand part. There will eventually be an armature wire that goes in here to kind of keep its position. I'm waiting to put stuffing in until I put the wire in, then I'll put stuffing around it to make sure it's evenly distributed. But I used to do all hands and stuff on the by hand sewing because I didn't want to see that seam. But now I don't care about that seam. That's fine. I really don't. It doesn't bother me. And if you look at Muppets and things, if you look at their hands, you can tell that they're machine sewn most of the time. So screw it. Plus it saves so much time. Doing this by hand, not that it's hard, but it takes forever. But buzzing it up through the machine, much faster. Getting around the little tiny fingers is a little tricky on the machine, but it's actually not that hard, and I've kind of gotten the hang of it, so moving around is not bad. Got some eyelashes cut out from this stiffened felt 3mm sheets, and yeah, got some of these. I was real sloppy. You can see my tracing marks are out there, but from photos, what I could tell is that it looked to be thick felt like that. It's a little hard to hold in place, but I'll try to hold this. Well, you get the idea. Something like that. It's like Sonic the Hedgehog. And they have these large pupils, so there you go. Snowth eye. I just used a photo and a vector graphic program and traced the eyelashes off of a picture where they looked like they were kind of laying sort of flat. And yeah, might trim them. They seem a little large, but they are large on that character, so they might be fine. Yeah. This is my second set of pupils. I have to be very careful because I lost a set. I think the fan blew them away. But I didn't have they're 1-inch circles. I didn't have a stencil, or that's a word I couldn't think of before. I didn't have a stencil for a 1-inch circle. It's such a simple thing, but like to get a really good looking actual circle cut out, we have to trace it all weird. It's kind of tough. So anyway, went through some furs. Probably showed these before. This is what I ended up going with, bubblegum pink, but it's a little too frizzy and not quite the right texture, a little too short. Managed to find this stuff, same color, but longer, faux Mongolian long pile, something like that. Yeah. So it's basically just a tube. That's all the body is. It's not a perfect tube. I realized that if it was, well, how do I explain it? Maybe I don't explain it. To make it a perfect, like, kind of cone, you'd have to cut it out a little differently than I did. It would have some curved lines in the neckline and the bottom if you were actually doing a cone. I did not do that. I just sort of measured the neckline, and it's just a straight line. As far as I can tell, looking at the characters, their neckline is just straight front to back. So I didn't bother making any kind of contours or anything like that. Sometimes you need a contour to accommodate the shape of the head or the neck or whatever, but these guys are kind of, from what I can tell, just flat. Yeah. So it's longer in the back, a little shorter in the front. That's because the neck part is a smaller circle than the bottom part. So the body widens a bit as it goes down. I've had a tendency to make necklines a little too small. So I try not to do that. Also, this seems like about the size they are. So ultimately, this will somehow get sewn to the fleece. Yeah, I know you're seeing this sideways and upside down. Yeah, you get that. You get eyes. You get little horns. So arms will go in and be able to kind of pose. Who's getting there? Getting there. I've just been confounded by this mouth. It's so weird. But it's good to try this stuff out. I kind of like figuring it out, even though it's sometimes tedious and painful on the brain. Feels good to discover things and figure it out. Yeah, man. So I think that's all there is to show right now. Next step, there's a few next steps. Getting a little structure for your hand to go into on the foam on the inside. Be a thing to figure out. At least it's a new direction to check out. You can put these eyes together. The eyes will get a little bit of the pink fleece and then some blue fleece for the eyelids. And then the eyelashes will go on. I made them a little long on the end so I could trim it. And yeah, and I'm gonna wait until everything's in place to put the pupils in, I think, just to see how they sit. They're gonna be screwed into in from behind. Yeah, so curious to see how those will set. They'll be about right there. So, eyes, gotta make the horns. I've been using my vector graphic program to try to figure out the best shape of the horns. So that's taking a lot of different angles and drawing them, tracing them, and comparing them to see what looks right. It's tough because you know, you're trying to get measurements on 3D objects and 2D, and they're not necessarily, and they're weird angles because you're going from photographs. So it's challenging, but it's coming together. All right, well, that's it. Just a little update. There will be progress, hopefully, to report. Yeah, and maybe we'll make some eyes together. Yeah, cool. All right, see you next time.